Hello, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Lori Amodeo, and I work at the Shambhala Mountain Center, located in a peaceful mountain valley in the Colorado Rockies, and where this summer, from June 23rd to June 30th, 2017, we will be hosting a week-long retreat titled Empowering the Heart of Healthcare, Embodied Presence. This retreat will be co-led by Acharya Melissa Moore, Dr. Aaron Snyder, Carol McKindley-Alvarez, and Leslie Booker. And we are pleased to have Acharya Melissa Moore with us today to discuss stress and burnout among healthcare professionals and to talk a little bit about the upcoming retreat. So a brief introduction to Melissa Moore. Acharya Melissa Moore, PhD, has been a Shambhala practitioner since 1979. She received her master's degree from Naropa and a PhD in psychological anthropology from the California Institute of Integral Studies. She became an Acharya, which is the most senior teacher in the Shambhala tradition, in 2012. She co-founded and is a head teacher in the Karuna Training, a 2-year professional training program in contemplative psychology now offered in 7 countries. Dr. Moore has worked in community behavioral health for several years and was the founding director of the Felton Institute, a mental health research and training institute in San Francisco from 2005 to 2016. Dr. Moore, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, so in some way or another, many of us have been touched by the healthcare profession, either as someone giving care, administering care, or as the one being cared for. So I'd like to begin our conversation by asking you, who is this retreat designed for, and what is the inspiration behind this notion of embodying the heart of healthcare?
So the retreat was designed for providers of healthcare, for those who are working in the multiple settings of primary or behavioral health care in either community-based or for-profit private settings. Either way, no matter where we sit in the system, it's a very stressful time in healthcare. And the notion behind this was to create community, to gather into retreat and to apply contemplative disciplines from various perspectives. Faculty holds many different perspectives, and bring about this innate inspiration which got everybody into healthcare to begin with, which was to be helpful, and to bring back and restore and bring resilience back to our inspiration to provide care in a chaotic system, and to really discern what we can be responsible for, which is ourselves, and some of the outer conditions, which we also sometimes in the front lines feel victimized by. So it's a kind of nurturing retreat, and also to come away with some skills and to create community while we're here, and to really restore ourselves to be able to go back into our work and be better caregivers and feel more self-empowered to do the work that's extremely demanding no matter where we are in the system.
You just mentioned a little bit about our inspiration behind, going into the healthcare profession, and how that might shift and change and transform as we are presented with stresses and emergency situations and things like that. So can you speak a little bit about coming back to the intention and how we can expect to work with that in this retreat?
Well, the retreat is built around the principle of intrinsic health. This notion that I think many providers know this intuitively, whether they have a word for it or not. But when you're caring for people who are ill, or when we ourselves are in a position of giving care, or when we're receiving care, there is a reserve in us, or something that almost is unconditioned, which we point to as intrinsic health, which isn't conditioned by outside factors such as whether or not we have a diagnosis or even if we're dying. So there's this capacity in us, a kind of um, resource in us that we can tune into. And one of the best ways to tune into that is through meditation practice. So the retreat will be giving some instruction, and it's a really designed for beginners or even advanced people, but specific instructions on how to draw on that innate resource and some other techniques from how to rouse yourself and know what some of the signs are when we're starting to get burned out. And the whole notion is to support people to be resourceful within themselves when they're unable to control the outside conditions. So it's a week designed to kind of go inside and see what we do have control of. Also sharing community, it also really very much helps to hear what others are going through. And there's a lot of shared experience in healthcare these days. It's been a very tumultuous and changing landscape over the last 5 years. So this entire retreat is for everyone to kind of draw on what's important, and help us stay in our field and be productive and be extremely helpful in these tumultuous times.
Yes, with these tumultuous times and the sensitivity around working with emotions in a professional setting, and how burnout kind of plays into all of that. Can you speak to a little bit about some of the different perspectives that we might expect to experience throughout this retreat, and maybe kind of what we can look forward to in this experience, particularly around working with this very sensitive subject that a lot of healthcare professionals meet?
Well, basically, burnout there are a lot of theories behind it. Some believe that they're experiencing burnout because of the system. Some people feel that they're experiencing burnout because of the content of who they meet and what they have to deal with all day long. But one of the perspectives will be arising from, or what I'll be teaching on, is this contemplative psychology notion that actually the heart is, the capacity of the heart is bottomless, that we have the capacity to love and to care, that is one of our greatest resources to offer others. But it means that we stay wide open and that we feel some of the vulnerabilities. So learning how to feel properly is part of that. But often what burnout, from the contemplative psychology perspective, what really can cause burnout is the struggle that we put up around trying to protect our heart from feeling, when really what we need to do is feel more and not go under by it, feel with a sense of stability and equanimity, which is why meditation can be so helpful. It's a very evidence-based practice that's been done for thousands of years on the planet, and it's been done because it's very effective at creating a stability of mind, which still allows us to be present and fully feel. And sometimes we don't know what to do with the pain. And the truth about emotions is that their nature is dynamic, and they also have wisdom. And if we feel them fully, they actually move through us. They're dynamic. It's when we stop them and try and manage them that we either suppress them, or another alternative is we act them out and we add more fuel with our thinking and our thoughts. So how do we really feel our experience when it's happening without feeding it and without suppressing it, and letting it inform us and wisen us? That will be a big content of what we're working with. And we'll really be using people who are present. We'll be using people's experience. We're not going to just be talking about theories. We're going to be very much working experientially with each other in listening, deep listening, and conversations that will help us kind of air what we're sitting with on a day-to-day basis, and learning techniques on how to be with that without, and wizen ourselves and strengthen ourselves through the vulnerability instead of folding under it. So it's kind of a radical approach that way, very Buddhistic approach in that way.
Thank you. There's thinking about how healthcare professionals are really place themselves in the front lines of suffering and the front lines of meeting people in their most vulnerable times in their lives, and their families as well, and the friends and their who are with them, and this quality of really leaning into that, as you're talking about, kind of leaning into whatever comes up, seems really brave.
Well, we're not like, there's a way to feel and be present with what others are feeling without, so to speak, getting in the boat. You don't get in the boat and get in the middle of the storm with them. You're not feeling on that level, but you're present. Your intuitive awareness is available. And most importantly, your heart is available. And our broken heart and our shared human experience is available. That's something that we have to offer. It doesn't mean that we have to get emotive or kind of, and I think many care providers who've been doing practice for a long time know about this. They may not have words for it, or they've touched it or experienced it before, with some better than others. So this is just kind of giving them language and real experience and practice to learn how to stay in a mind of equanimity and keep your heart open. That's the idea. And so we'll be examining that. And a lot of that is very subtle, and it comes from contemplative disciplines. Contemplative meaning present moment. Disciplines that help us stay in the present moment with whatever is arising as it's arising. Not our version of the world the way we think it should be. Because life doesn't quite work like that, unfortunately. And anyone in healthcare can tell you that, because it's a very live setting, with all kinds of fraught with all kinds of complications and emotions. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And I just think about how coming out of a retreat, you might be particularly, energized, and then you go back to your home and your work, and those internal and external stresses will still be there in some way or another. So I'm curious to know what we come away with at the end of this program to help support what we've learned and what we've practiced.
Well, one of our intentions is to create a community amongst the providers who show up in this retreat, and we'll be offering ongoing online support, just coming back if people want to participate in that, if they feel inspired when they leave, just a way of coming back together and kind of remembering some of the practices as a kind of support group on a monthly basis with faculty who are present. So that, because we often go to retreat, we come away inspired, and then it's the real world again. We don't, this retreat in particular is designed to empower us in the world. So even though we're going away for the retreat, we very much want to build a community that can sustain itself after the retreat with further check-ins. Now that we have this modern technology, it's rather easy for people to get on Zoom and have conversations and ongoing study. There can be readings and all kinds of ways in which we can support ourselves. We can support each other, and they will have spent a week together, so they'll know each other. Yeah, that's our plan.
Thank you. It's helpful to hear how the design of this program really allows for the full experience of the professional and the practitioner to be able to bring the merits of the retreat back home, and to support their work and also each other. So
Exactly.
appreciate that. Dr. Moore, do you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share with us, or topics you'd like to touch on?
Well, just that we were thoughtful in putting the faculty together. Dr. Erin Snyder is a medical ethics professional and brings long-term 40 years of practice. I myself have a lot of practice. He and I both come from the Shambhala Buddhist meditation tradition, of which Shambhala Mountain Center is a part of. But we wanted to kind of open our arms and broaden our perspective, and we're bringing in Leslie Booker, who is a yoga teacher and very much doing a lot of yoga and movement, mindful movement, she calls it, in social action. So she'll be bringing in a movement component, as well as Carol McKindley-Alvarez, who is someone I work together in San Francisco on the front lines of behavioral health, who comes from a Baptist perspective and really wanted to have a Christian voice. And I've worked with Carol for a long time. She's an extremely skilled trainer in strengths. She works not only with healthcare professionals, but police, in understanding these same kinds of issues in a little bit different language than the Buddhist language. So we wanted to gather faculty that had a wide perspective of experience and real different tools that we can offer. And each faculty will be giving a workshop, one per day. And then the mornings will be more contemplative based, where we will meditate and people get instruction on meditation. The afternoons will be specific about how we work with a particular theme each day. And then in the latter afternoons, there's a kind of social meditation hour where we create community. And then some of the evenings are open, and some of the evenings will have walks around the land. There's very beautiful things on the land, like the Great Stupa of Dharmakaya, the Kami Shrine, campfires, if the weather permits, and we can have fire on the land. And then also we have in mind a banquet the very last night. So it is a very progressive theme with many voices to kind of help surround the community in commonality. In what our shared experience is that we're providers of care, and what the challenges that brings. So I think that I'm very looking forward, having now starting to really design the program and get ready for it. I feel like the richness of what we've pulled together is quite generous. So and very enriching for people who want to come and restore themselves and tap into their innate resilience and love. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, and with this well-rounded panel of teachers, I feel like you're really bringing the embodiment and the embodied presence, as the title connotes. So yes, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
Likewise. Dr. Melissa Moore, it's been a pleasure to connect with you on the heart of healthcare and how we can truly benefit from exploring our innate compassion in our innate health, in the support of community.
Beautiful.
Once again, the week-long retreat, Empowering the Heart of Healthcare Embodied Presence, will be held at the Shambhala Mountain Center from June 23rd to June 30th, 2017. Thank you all for tuning in with us. If you are interested in learning more about this and other offerings at the Shambhala Mountain Center, please visit our website, shambhalamountain.org. We'll see you on retreat.